Hare Krishna, dear devotees, let's chant one round of japa with Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare 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 Ram, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim
Namaste
Saraswati
Saraswati
Vyasam Tato
Vyasam
Jayam Mudirayet
Dhyate
Ashtaprayeshva
Nashtaprayesh
Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता एज इट इज की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय हरे कृष्णा डियर डिवोटीज वेलकम टू टुडेज श्रीमद् भागवतम today is the appearance day of Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So actually we fast for half day today. He is our Acharya. So I thought we will read about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if that's okay with everyone, or do you want me to just continue with our routine? Read about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Anyone has any preferences? Mataji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. Okay. So we will read about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'll just read from Yeah, so there is a few biographies, but they're all lengthy. We will not have time to read all of them. And this is the most elaborate one. So I'll just start from here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur biography. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandamurtaye Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate. You can all repeat also. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandamurtaye
सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये
Gaura Shakti Swarupaya
गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय
Rupanugavarayate.
रूपानुगवरायते.
Thank you. I offer my obeisances to you, O Bhaktivinod, the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, the incarnation of Gaura's potency, and the best of the followers of Rupa Goswami. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's transcendental identity is revealed to the members of his spiritual family. He is the best of the followers of Rupa Manjari, who is the leader of Lalita Sakhi's entourage. Lalita Sakhi is the foremost of Radharani's 8 girlfriends. In various places in his own writings, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has indicated this divine identity. Yugala Sevaya Sri Rasa Mandale Niyukta Kara Amai Lalita Sakhira Ayogya Kinkari Vinoda Dhariche Pai. Bhaktivinod holds your feet and asks you to engage this unworthy servant of Lalita Sakhi in the service of the divine couple while they are performing the Ras Leela. This is from Kalyana Kalpataru, a writing of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in which he himself is revealing his identity. Unworthy servant of Lalita Sakhi, like that. In the song Siddhi Lalasa in his Gita Mala also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives his eternal spiritual identity as Kamala Manjari, the servant of Sri Rupa Manjari. Her kunja is in the bower of Lalita, Vrajananda Sukhada Kunja, where she sets the standard of worship to the divine couple. So, who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the spiritual world? Kamala Manjari. Parane Tarit Vasataravali Kamala Manjari Nama Sharibaro Varsha Vayas Satata Swananda Sukhada Dhama. My bodily hue is like that of lightning, and I wear a sari, the color of a clear night sky, sprinkled with stars. I am 12 and a half years old and I live in Swananda Sukhada Kunja. This is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he is Kamala Manjari, and in his eternal identity he is a Manjari, 12 and a half years old, and he lives in Swananda Sukhada Kunja. So that's about Bhaktivinoda Thakur's eternal identity. The need for Bhaktivinod's appearance. After the disappearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Rai, and the 6 Goswamis, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das, and Shyamananda Prabhu, a dark age descended on the world of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Those unable to understand the transcendental purity of Mahaprabhu's religion of love started numerous heretical sects or apasampradayas. Totaram Das Babaji named 13 such heretical sects, apasampradayas. What are they? Aul, Baul, Kartabhaja, Neriya, Daravesha, Sai, Sahajiya, Sakhi Bheki, Smarta, Jata Gosai, Atibari, Churiyadhari, Gauranga Nagari, Tota Kohe, Ei Teror, Sange, Sanga Nahi Kori. So don't associate with these 13 types of sects. Educated upper class Bengali society was shocked and disgusted by the practices of these heretical sects and came to identify Mahaprabhu's religion with the lower classes, the uneducated and immoral. People of the gentle classes thus had no understanding or faith in Mahaprabhu's true religion. The most munificent incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, took pity on these bewildered persons, and in order to reclaim them for his for his path of divine love, sent his eternal associate Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur into this world. Possessed of superhuman prowess, the Thakur wrote more than 100 books in several different languages with the goal of defeating all the unorthodox views opposed to the true doctrines of Mahaprabhu's religion. The result was that many members of discerning society and others from all over the world came to recognize the unequaled value of Mahaprabhu's teachings. The founder of the Chaitanya Mutt and the worldwide Gaudiya Mutts, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur, based his mission on the books and teachings given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and set into motion the fulfillment of Mahaprabhu's message found in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Prithivite Paryanta Ache Jata Deshagram Sarvatra Saichara Hoibeka Mora Nam. My name will pervade every village and country in the world. This is from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat 3.4.126. So, you all understood what is the purpose of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance? Mahaprabhu's immediate disciples were the 6 Goswamis, and after the Goswamis, Srila Jiva Goswami was the youngest, whose appearance day we celebrated yesterday. Srila Jiva Goswami's students were Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, Shyamananda Pandit. So that was the next generation. And after them, again, we had Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan. But after this, for a couple of hundreds of years, many Sahajiya sects came up. As we saw, 13 different Sahajiya sects were recognized. And they called themselves the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, the educated class, when they would hear about Lord Chaitanya's followers, they would relate them to, as soon as they would hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, they would think of immoral people. Because these Sahajiya sects, Apasampradayas, they were engaging in all sorts of illicit activities. Intoxication, illicit sex. But at the same time, they were calling themselves the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Gaudiya Vaishnavism became like a curse, right? If you want to curse somebody, you would call him a Gaudiya Vaishnava. That's how low the standard had become in the eyes of the general people. That's when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared. So the purpose of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance is to once again show the world the highest pristine philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not as the Apasampradayas were presenting. That is not Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. So he had to establish that. That is the contribution of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur thus made an unequaled contribution to the ultimate spiritual welfare of humankind. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur wrote in his preface to the Jaiva Dharma, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is an extremely dear associate of Sri Chaitanya Chandra. In the course of time, when those who preached the desires of Chaitanya Dev had left this world to enter the Lord's eternal pastimes, the sky over Bengal slowly darkened, covered by the thick clouds of sensual enjoyment and false renunciation. The sky was covered and the world was bereft of the rays of light coming from the Sankirtan propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One by one, the sun, the moon, and the unlimited stars of that sky faded from view, leaving only the occasional flash of lightning to disrupt the unending darkness of ignorance. For how long? Almost 350 years after the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur came to illuminate the Gaudiya sky. All the great virtues are present in the body of a Vaishnava. The good qualities of Krishna gradually develop in his devotees. All these transcendental qualities are the characteristics of pure Vaishnavas, and they cannot be fully explained, but I shall try to point out some of the most important. Devotees are always merciful. They are not bellicose. They are truthful, equal to all, faultless, generous, mild, and clean. They are without material possessions and they work for the welfare of all. They are peaceful, surrendered to Krishna, and desireless. They are meek, resolute, and completely control the six character flaws of lust, anger, greed, and so forth. They eat only as much as required and are prudent, respectful, and free from false prestige. They are grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 22, text 75 to 80. What are the qualities of a Vaishnava? All these devotee qualities were perfectly displayed by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur throughout his life of pure devotion. The ocean of compassion, Sri Gaurahari, displayed this merciful nature to the conditioned souls in 9 different ways. The same kind of distribution of mercy is seen in the life and work of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. So, because it's a very big thing, we'll read selectively. Okay, family history of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay, let's read the family history of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Just as the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna's highest perfection is in his human activities in a human form, so similarly his eternal associates also act in human-like ways when they descend to the worldly platform for the benefit of the fallen living entities. Even though they appear to be ordinary human beings, they are in fact never touched by the illusory nature and always remain transcendental to it. They may be situated in householder life, but they are never entangled in material sensual desires like an ordinary conditioned soul because of their deep attachment and love for the Lord. They are simply engaged in a pastime whereby they imitate the activities of the rest of mankind for the sake of exchanging with them for the purposes of benefiting them. Those who have surrendered with sincerity to Vishnu and the Vaishnavas are able to recognize the non-material character of these personalities. So when we were discussing about pure devotional service, uh, uh, there we discussed several times that many times we see pure devotees, although they are not required to do, they don't have any work to do in this world, but still they engage in activities. They accept a householder life, they have families, they have a job, although they are pure devotees. Why do they do that? To benefit others. To benefit others. For their sake, they act like one amongst them and then set an example for them how they can actually perfect their lives. For that sake, but not that, but just because they are also householders, they are also working. So they're just like me. That mistake shouldn't be done. As we already saw, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is an eternal resident of the spiritual world. So now we'll continue reading. So we are reading about the family history of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The king, Adi Shura, invited Brahmins and other upper class Hindus to Bengal, amongst whom was the Kayastha Purushottam. Kayastha. His seventh and eighth generation descendants were Sri Vinayaka and Narayan, who became government ministers. Who is this? This is the Kayastha's seventh or eighth generation. Kayastha Purushottam's seventh or eighth generation from him. They became government ministers. The 15th generation descendant was Mahaprabhu's contemporary, Raja Krishnananda Datta. So this was way before Mahaprabhu. Okay. So the 15th generation from Kayastha Purushottam was Mahaprabhu's contemporary, Raja Krishnananda Datta. He was a devotee of Krishna, and Nityananda Prabhu came to stay in his home with his entourage and bestowed profuse blessings on him. Descendants of Krishnananda Datta include Govinda Sharan Datta, who founded the village of Govindapur, Kalighat, Sutanuti, and Govindapur. Once again. Descendants of Krishnananda Datta include Govinda Sharan Datta, who founded the village of Govindapur. Kalighat, Sutanuti, and Govindapur are the three villages which later became Calcutta. So today's Calcutta is actually these three villages together, including Govindapur. This Govindapur was founded by Govinda Sharan Datta, who is a descendant of Krishnananda Datta, who was a contemporary of Mahaprabhu. Now, Govinda Sharan Datta's grandson was Ramchandra. His grandson was Madan Mohan Datta, who donated Calcutta's Hedua Pukur to the municipality for public use. He also spent a great deal of his personal wealth in 1774 to build steps at Gaya's Pretashila Tirtha and the Chandranath mountain. Madan Mohan Datta's grandson was Raj Vallabh Datta, whose son Ananda Chandra Datta was very religious and detached from material life. Ananda Chandra married Jagan Mohini Devi, the daughter of the celebrated Zamindar of Ula village in Nadia district, Ishwar Chandra Mustawfi. So this Zamindar Mustawfi's daughter is Jagan Mohini, who was married to Ananda Chandra Datta, who is the descendant of all the personalities we read. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepted Ananda Chandra Datta and Jagan Mohini Devi as his parents and appeared in Ula, Birnagar, in the home of his maternal grandfather. It was the 352nd year after the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sunday, September 2nd, 1838. The Tithi was Shukla Trayodasi of Bhadra, which is today. He appeared. His parents gave him the name Kedarnath. So he was Kedarnath Datta. That's about the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's childhood. Bhaktivinoda composed his first poem when he was only 2 years old. This extraordinary display of talent gave an indication of his future vocation and the transcendental devotional songs he would write later in his life. Songs full of devotion for the Lord and sacred sentiment like his are not the result of any worldly scholarship or creativity, but are self-manifested in the eternally perfect associate of the Lord. The words of the residents of Vaikuntha are all not different from the object of their speech, the Supreme Lord. Because in the spiritual world, everything is absolute. The words of the devotees are also absolute. The Lord is also absolute. The devotees are also absolute in the spiritual world. They can in no way be compared to any mundane sound vibration. Every word used by the Thakur is divine ambrosia, which awakens the mood of love for the Lord and is full of the flavors of devotional sentiment. So, when he was 2 years old, he composed his first poem. At only 6, had learned all the details of the historical epics Mahabharata and Ramayana. When he was 6 years old, he knew all the details of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Is an ordinary 6-year-old capable of such a feat? Without divine mercy, it is impossible to understand the basis of all the devotional scriptures. They are not accessible to mere scholarship. The meaning of the scriptures was revealed in the heart of the Thakur on its own. Thus, there is a basic difference between the explanations of scripture given by him and those derived from a mundane scholarly analysis. So we'll see if we should read more here, or let me just see. So then there is his marriage, then his studies, the prediction of grandfather title, how he got the title of Bhaktivinoda, his travels and preaching, punishing Bishkishan for deception, birth of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his unequal contribution. Okay. Maybe I'll take up another biography which is not as elaborate, just because you don't have so much time. Let me see.
He has lots of kirtans, bhajans,
Yes,
no?
Mataji.
Lot
Yeah.
of them. Even Jiva Goswami, yesterday I was about to tell, but he has one beautiful song, Krishna Prema Mai Radha. It's a beautiful song. It glorifies Radha Krishna.
You know the song? Can you
Yeah,
sing?
I know the
Yugala
song.
Ashtakam.
Huh?
Yugala Ashtakam.
Yeah. Beautiful song. I love that song. I always used to sing in that. But these are also, in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's also a lot of songs are there. The Puri Jagannath.
So I'm just seeing which one to read. Yeah, I think this is kind of shorter.
Remember? No reading. Unless Mataji asks you to read, you open your eyes. Other than that, you will close your eyes and hear. Okay.
All right, so we'll just read again. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born on Sunday, September 2nd, 1938 in Birnagar,
1830.
in the Nadia district of Bengal. He was the 7th son of Raja Krishnananda Datta. We read Ananda Chandra Datta, isn't it? He was the 7th son of Raja Krishnananda Datta, a great devotee of Lord Nityananda. Maybe 7th generation from Raja Krishnananda Datta. He was also known as the great grandson of Madan Mohan and the 3rd son of his godfather Ananda Chandra. He would be known as Daitya Kulera Prahlad, Prahlad in the family of demons. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is known as Prahlad in the family of demons. This was because Vaishnavism was not very much respected in his family. On his mother's side, there was no respect for Vaishnavism at all. He was named Kedarnath Datta by his godfather. His childhood was spent at the mansion of his maternal grandfather, Mustafi Mahashay, in Birnagar. His environment at this time was very opulent. He got his elementary education at the primary school started by his grandmother. Later, he attended an English school in Krishnanagar, started by the king of Nadia. He left that school when, this Krishnanagar, of course. Swarupganj is where we find Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. But this is Ula Gram. Let's just continue. So his environment at this time was very opulent. As a child, when he was growing up in his maternal grandfather's house, it was very opulent. He was a zamindar. He got his elementary education at the primary school started by his grandmother in the same village. Later, he attended an English school in Krishnanagar started by the king of Nadia. He left that school when his older brother died unexpectedly of cholera. When he was 11 years old, his father passed away. Subsequently, the grant of land that had been conferred upon his grandmother changed owners. Okay? When he was 11 years old, his father passed away. So the grant of land that had been conferred upon his grandmother changed owners. At this time, the family fell into a condition of poverty. Their great wealth proved to be illusory. Still, Kedarnath Datta passed over these difficulties with great endurance. His mother arranged a marriage for him when he was 12, in the year 1850, to the 5-year-old daughter of Madhusudan Mitra Mahashay, a resident of Ranaghat. Around this time, Kedarnath's uncle, Kashi Prasad Ghosh Mahashay Thakur, who had mastered British education, came to Ulagram after the death of his maternal grandfather. So first his father died, then he was put into poverty, but still he endured that. Then he was married. When he was 12, he was married to a 5-year-old girl. And then his grandfather, maternal grandfather, also passed away. Then his uncle, Kashi Prasad Ghosh Mahashay Thakur, he was educated in the British education system. He came to the village of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He schooled young Kedarnath at his home in Calcutta. This was at first resisted by the boy's mother, but by the time he was 13, he was allowed to go to the big city. His uncle's house was situated in the Heduya district of the central Calcutta. Kashi Prasad was the central figure of the literary circle of his time, being the editor of the Hindu Intelligencer newspaper. Many writers came to him to learn the art of writing in correct English. Kedarnath assisted Kashi Prasad by judging manuscripts submitted to the newspaper. Kedarnath studied Kashi Prasad's books and also frequented the public library. He was 13 years old, imagine. He attended Calcutta's Hindu Charitable Institution High School and became an expert English reader, speaker, and writer. Kedarnath became ill from the salty water of Calcutta. He returned to Ulagram and was treated by a Muslim soothsayer who predicted that the village of Birnagar would soon become pestilence-ridden and deserted. Pestilence means there will be like an epidemic there, and soon the whole place would be deserted. Everyone will die. Nobody will be living there. The Muslim also predicted Kedarnath would become recognized as a great devotee of Lord Krishna. In the year 1856, when he was 18, Kedarnath entered college in Calcutta. He started writing extensively in both English and Bengali. These essays were published in local journals. He also lectured in both languages, English and Bengali. He studied English literature at this time extensively and taught speech making to a person who later became a well-known orator in the British Parliament. He taught one person how to make speeches, and he became a well-known orator in the British Parliament later on. Between the years 1857 to 1858, he composed a two-part English epic entitled The Boread, which he planned to complete in 12 books. These two books described the life of Porus, who met Alexander the Great. Vijendranath Thakur, the eldest son of Maharshi Devendranath Tagore and brother of Nobel Prize winning poet Rabindranath Tagore, was Kedarnath's best friend during these years. He assisted Kedarnath in his studies of Western religious books. Kedarnath used to call Vijendranath Bado Dada or Big Brother. He was very taken by Christian theology and found it more interesting than Hindu monism. He would spend many hours comparing the writings of Canning, Theodore Parker, Emerson, and Newman. At the end of 1858, Kedarnath returned to Birnagar and found that the Muslim soothsayer's prediction about that place had come true. It was ruined and deserted. Kedarnath brought his mother and paternal grandmother with him to Calcutta. Soon after, he went to Orissa to visit his paternal grandfather, Raj Vallabh Datta, formerly an important Calcutta gentleman who was now living as an ascetic in the Orissan countryside. His days were coming to a close, and he wanted Kedarnath to be with him when he departed this world. After receiving his grandfather's last instructions, he traveled to all the monasteries and temples in the state of Orissa. Kedarnath began to consider the question of the means of his livelihood. He was not interested in business, as he'd seen how the necessary dishonesty, right? When you do business, you have to be dishonest. So, as he had seen how the necessary dishonesty of the trade world had morally weakened the merchant class, he decided to become a school teacher. He established a school for English education in the village of Kendrapada near Chuttigram in Orissa, thus becoming a pioneer in English teaching in that state. He also could see the oppressive power wielded by the landowners of Chuttigram. After some time, he went to Puri and passed a teacher's examination. He got a teacher's post in a Kathak school and later became headmaster of a school in Bhadraka and then in Madinipur. His work was noted by the school board authorities. In Bhadraka, his first son Annada Prasad Achyutananda was born when he was the headmaster in 1860. He published a book that year in English that described all the ashrams and temples in the state. This book received favorable mention in the work called Orissa by British historian Sir William Hunter. Hunter praised Kedarnath's moral and religious character. As the headmaster of the Medinipur High School, Kedarnath studied many popular Bengali religious sects, particularly their philosophies and practices. He concluded they were all cheap. He came to understand that the only real religion that had ever been established in Bengal was that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unfortunately, his movement was not well represented. Kedarnath could not even get a copy of the 16th century Bengali biography of Lord Chaitanya's activities on earth called Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura couldn't find even a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Despite searching in bookshops, libraries, and monasteries all over Bengal, Kedarnath's first wife passed away. So in the town of Jakapur, he married Bhagyavati Devi. Bhagyavati Devi. In 1861, Kedarnath accepted the post of deputy magistrate. Can you see how quickly things are happening? In 1858, he was, just teaching in a village. He just started teaching because he didn't want to take up a business. And in 1860, he was already the principal. And in 1861, he became the deputy magistrate in the government of Bengal. Then he became collectorate officer after seeing the corruption of the government workers. Then he became collectorate officer after seeing the corruption of the government workers. He established an organization called the Bhratra Samaj. He wrote an English book in 1863 called Our Wants. At this time, he also constructed a home in Ranaghat. Later in 1863, he stayed at Burdwan, where he composed two novel poems in Bengali, Vijayanagram, Deserted Village, and Sannyasi. Volume 39 of the 1863 Calcutta Review praised these poems, saying, "We hope the author will continue to give his countrymen the benefit of his elegant and unassuming pen, which is quite free from those objectionable licenses of thought and expression which abound in many dramas recently published. The want of the day is the creation of a literature for Hindu ladies, and we trust that many more educated natives will have the good sense to devote their time and abilities to the attainment of this most desirable aim." The rhyme and style of these two poems was original. They gave birth to a new way of writing poetry in the Bengali language. In the year 1866, Kedarnath took the position of deputy registrar with the power of a deputy collector and deputy magistrate in the district of Chhapra. He also became quite fluent in Persian and Urdu. In a place called Saran in Chhapra, a clique of tea planters made unjust demands of him. He successfully opposed them, and while at Saran, he visited the Gautam ashram at Godana. Desiring to establish a school for teaching Nyaya Shastra, he delivered a speech there in 1866, which was well received. The school was successfully established, the foundation stone being laid in 1833 by Sir Rivers Thompson, after whom the school was named. Though Kedarnath had no further part in the project after his speech, the talk he gave was instrumental in securing public aid for the school. Also in 1866, he translated Palide Registry Manual into Urdu, which was circulated by the government throughout the United Provinces of Agra and Oudh. This manual was used by the registration departments of those areas. Kedarnath was transferred to Purnia from Chhapra, where he took charge of the government and judicial departments. He was then transferred to Dinajapur, West Bengal in 1868, becoming the deputy magistrate. At this time, he received copies of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita from Calcutta. He read Chaitanya Charitamrita repeatedly. His faith in Krishna developed until he was absorbed in Krishna consciousness day and night. He incessantly submitted heartfelt prayers for the Lord's mercy. He came to understand the supreme majesty and power of the one and only absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He published a song about Lord Chaitanya entitled Satchidananda Premalankara. In 1869, while serving as deputy magistrate under the government of Bengal in Dinajapur, he delivered a speech in the form of a treatise he had written on the Srimad Bhagavatam to a big congregation of many prominent men of letters from many parts of India and England. He was transferred to Champaran, during which time his second son Radhika Prasad was born. In Champaran, people used to worship a ghost in a banyan tree, which had the power to influence the mind of the local judge to decide in the favor of the worshipper. Okay? In Champaran, people worshipped a ghost in a banyan tree. So this ghost had the power to influence the mind of the local judge to decide in favor of the worshipper. So if you want the judge to, release the criminal, you would go and satisfy this ghost, and the ghost will control the mind of the judge, like that. Kedarnath engaged the father of Pandit Ramabhai, a famous girl scholar, Ramabai, a famous girl scholar, to read Srimad Bhagavatam under the tree that had the ghost. So Kedarnath engaged the father of Pandit Ramabai to read Srimad Bhagavatam under the tree. After 1 month, the tree crashed to the ground and many people found faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam. From Champaran he went to Puri, which engladdened his heart because the holy city of Puri, the site of the famous Krishna temple of Jagannath, was where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had resided for 18 years as a sannyasi. Near Puri, in the town of Kamanala, there lived a yogi named Bishkishan, who became popular by exercising mystic powers. He had 2 companions going by the names Brahma and Shiva. So obviously, he was presenting himself as Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. So he had 2 companions that went around by the names Brahma and Shiva. Bishkishan himself claimed to be Mahavishnu. Some wealthy landowners of Orissa came under his sway and were providing funds for the construction of a temple. They also sent him women with whom he engaged in Ras Leela enjoyments. Bishkishan declared he'd drive the British rulers out of Orissa and make himself king. Such inflammatory statements were circulated all around Orissa. The British thought him a revolutionary, so the district governor of the national government of Bengal drew up arrest orders. But nobody in Orissa dared to act upon these orders, as they all feared the yogi's power. So you understood, Bishkishan was a mystic yogi, and he presented himself as the Supreme Lord, Mahavishnu. So, and also he made statements such as he would drive the British out of the country and he would become the king himself. So therefore the British passed orders to arrest this Bishkishan. But none of the officers would dare go and arrest him because they were fearful that he's a mystic yogi. He can hurt them or even kill them. So nobody would go to arrest him. They all feared his power. Mr. Ravan Shaw, District Commissioner for Orissa, requested Kedarnath to bring Bishkishan to justice. Kedarnath went personally to Bishkishan, who showed some powers and informed Kedarnath that he knew well who he was and his mission. He warned Kedarnath that since he, Bishkishan, was the Lord, he'd better not interfere with him. Kedarnath replied by acknowledging Bishkishan's accomplishments in yoga, right? He approved his accomplishments in yoga and invited him to come to Puri, where he could see the Jagannath temple. Bishkishan haughtily said, "Why should I come to see Jagannath? He is only a hunk of wood. I am the Supreme in person." Instantly furious, Kedarnath arrested the rogue, brought him to Puri, and threw him in jail, where he was guarded by 36 Muslim constables and 72 policemen from Cuttack day and night. Brahma and Shiva avoided arrest by claiming They'd been forced by Bishkishan to do as they'd done. But Mr. Taylor, subdivision officer at Kodar, later prosecuted them. Kedarnath tried Bishkishan in Puri. The trial lasted 18 days, during which time thousands of people gathered outside the courtroom demanding Bishkishan's release. So it was 18 days long. On 6th day of the trial, Kedarnath's second daughter, Kadambini, aged 7, became seriously ill and nearly died. But within a day, she had recovered. Kedarnath knew it was the power of the yogi at work. He remarked, "Yes, let us all die, but this rascal must be punished." The very next day in court, the yogi announced he'd shown his power and would show much more. He suggested that Kedarnath should release him at once or face worse miseries. On the last day of the trial, Kedarnath himself became ill from high fever and suffered exactly as his daughter had done for one whole day. But Kedarnath pronounced the man guilty and sentenced him to 18 months for political conspiracy. When Bishkishan was being readied for jailing, one Dr. Walter, the district medical officer, cut off all the yogi's long hair. The yogi kept his mystic power in his hair and hadn't eaten or drunk during the whole trial. So when his hair was shorn, he fell to the floor like a dead man and had to be taken by stretcher to jail. After 3 months, he was moved to the central jail at Midnapur, where he took poison and died in the year 1873. So you understood? All his power, mystic power, was stored in his hair. He had long jatta, long hair. And throughout the trial, he didn't take a drop of water or eat anything, but by his mystic power, which he had stored in the hair, he was able to be normal. But when the hair was cut off, now there was no nourishment in the body and no mystic power, so he just collapsed. And then losing all that power, after being hospitalized for some time, he actually took poison and killed himself. That is this Bishkishan who claimed to be Lord Mahavishnu. In Puri, Kedarnath studied the Srimad Bhagavatam with the commentary of Sridhar Swami, copied out the Shat Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, and made a special study of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Between the years 1874 and 1893, Kedarnath spent much time in seclusion, chanting the holy name, though he still executed his worldly duties perseveringly. He wrote several books in Sanskrit, such as Tattva Sutra, Datta Kaustubha, and Tattva Viveka, and many other books in Bengali, such as the Kalyana Kalpataru. While in Puri, he established a Vaishnav discussion society known as the Bhagavat Samsad in the Jagannath Vallabha Gardens, where the famous saint Sri Ramananda Rai stayed in meditation hundreds of years before. All the prominent Vaishnavas joined this group except for Raghunath Das Babaji, known as Siddha Purusha. He thought that Kedarnath was unauthorized as he did not wear kantimala, neck beads, or tilak, clay markings on 12 places of the body. Moreover, he advised other Vaishnavas to avoid Kedarnath's association. But soon thereafter, Raghunath Das Babaji contracted a deathly illness. Lord Jagannath appeared to him in a dream and told him to pray for the mercy of Kedarnath if he at all wanted release from the illness and death. He did so. Kedarnath gave him special medicines and cured him. Raghunath Das Babaji was blessed with a true awareness of Kedarnath's spiritual position. A well-known saint named Swarup Das Babaji did his worship at Satasana near the ocean in Puri. Swarupa showed much affection for Kedarnath and gave him many profound instructions on the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. A popular upstart holy man named Charan Das Babaji preached and printed books advising a perverted style of kirtan, congregational chanting of the holy names of God, advising that one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra in japa and Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Hare Krishna Hare Ram in kirtan. Kedarnath preached long and hard to him. After a long time, Charandas Babaji came to his senses and begged forgiveness from Kedarnath, admitting his fault in spreading this nonsense fashion of chanting all over Bengal. 6 months later, Charandas went mad and died in great distress. Kedarnath became manager of the Jagannath temple. He used his government powers to establish strict regularity in the worship of the deity. In the Jagannath temple courtyard, he set up a Bhakti Mandapa where daily discourses of Srimad Bhagavatam were held. Kedarnath would spend long hours discussing Krishna and chanting the holy name, especially at the important sites of Sri Chaitanya's pastimes like the Gopinath temple, the tomb of Haridas Thakur, the Siddha Bakula tree, and the Gambhira room. He made notes on the Vedanta Sutra, which were used by Sri Shyamlal Goswami in the edition of the Govinda Bhashya by Baladev Vidyabhushan that he published. Near the Jagannath Vallabha Gardens, in a large house adjacent to the Narayana Chad Matha, on the 5th day of the dark fortnight of Magh in the year 1874, the fourth son of Kedarnath took birth. He was named Bimala Prasad and would later be known as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, the spiritual master of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When was that? 1874. So next year, 2024, we'll be celebrating the 150th anniversary, birth anniversary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. 1874. 2 years earlier, Kamala Prasad, his third son, had taken birth. In 1874, Kedarnath discovered the Raja of Puri had misappropriated 80,000 rupees for his own sense pleasures. This money belonged to the temple. So Kedarnath forced the Raja to pay for the offerings of food to Lord Jagannath. The Raja was angry at Kedarnath and therefore with the help of 50 Brahmin priests began a yagya, fire sacrifice, meant for killing Kedarnath, which went on for 30 days. When the last oblations were offered into the fire, the king's own son and not Kedarnath died. Kedarnath left Puri on special business, returning to Bengal, where he visited the holy towns of Navadvip, Shantipur, and Kalna. He was put in charge of the subdivision Mahisarekha in Howrah. After that, he was transferred to Bhadraka. In August 1878, he was made head of the subdivision Naraila in the Yashohan district. While in Naraila, he published 2 books on Krishna that became famous around the world, Sri Krishna Samhita and Kalyana Kalpataru. In a letter dated April 16, 1880, Dr. Reinhold Rost wrote to Kedarnath, by representing Krishna's character and his worship in a more sublime and transcendental light than has hitherto been the custom to regard him, you have rendered an essential service to your co-religionists, and no one would have taken more delight in your work than my departed friend, Bold Stucker, the sincerest and most zealous advocate the Hindus ever had in Europe. In 1877, Varada Prasad was born, his 5th son, and in 1878, Viraja Prasad, the 6th son, both at Ranaghat. Kedarnath took formal Vaishnava initiation from Bipin Bihari Goswami, who was descended from the Janava family of Bhagnapada. At the same time, his seventh son Lalita Prasad appeared at Ranaghat. Within a few years after his initiation, Kedarnath was awarded by the Vaishnavas the title Bhakti Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura in appreciation for his tireless propagation of the philosophy of devotion to Sri Krishna. In Naraila, many people had formally adopted Vaishnavism, but they were not trained in scriptural conclusions and thus were easily misled by upstarts who exploited their devotional sentiments. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave these simple devotees of Krishna shelter and instructed them in Vaishnava Siddhanta, the essential truths of Vaishnavism, most exactingly. In 1881, Bhaktivinoda began publishing the Sajjana Toshini, his Vaishnava journal. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had previously pilgrimaged to the holy cities of Benares, Prayag, Mathura, and Vrindavan in 1866. At the close of his stay in Naraila, he desired to again see Vrindavan, the land of Krishna. He took 3 months for this purpose. He met Jagannath Das Babaji there, who moved every 6 months between Navadvip in Bengal and Vrindavan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepted Jagannath Das Babaji as his eternally worshipable Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master. During his pilgrimage at this time, he dealt with a gang of dacoits, highway robbers, known as the Kanjharas, who robbed and killed many pilgrims. He gave evidence to the government, and a commission was formed to wipe out this scourge. From Vrindavan, he came to Calcutta and bought a house at 181 Maniktala Street, now called Ramasha Datta Street, near Bidana Park. He called the house Bhakti Bhavan, place of devotion, and started daily worship of Sri Giridhar. He was appointed head of the subdivision of Barasat, where the well-known novelist Bankim Chandra met him. Bankim Chandra showed him a book he'd written about Krishna to Bhaktivinoda, who preached to Bankim Chandra for 4 days, taking little food and hardly any sleep. The result was Bankim Chandra changed his ideas, which were mundane speculations about Krishna, and his book to conform. So he changed his books also, his ideas and his book, to conform with the teachings of Sri Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say that knowledge is power. During the last year of his stay at Barasat, 1886, Bhaktivinoda Thakur published an edition of the Bhagavad Gita with the Sanskrit commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which he translated into Bengali, the Rasika Ranjana translation. He had undertaken this task at the request of Babu Sharad Charan Mitra, ex-judge of the Calcutta High Commission. Bankim Chandra wrote the preface, acknowledging his own indebtedness to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He noted that all Bengali readers would be indebted to Bhaktivinoda for his saintly work. From Barasat, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was transferred to Srirampur. At nearby Saptagram, he visited the residence of the great Vaishnav saint Uddharan Datta Thakur, a great associate of Lord Nityananda, and the places of another great Vaishnavas of that time, Abhiram Thakur at Khanakula and Vasu Ramananda at Kulinagram. At Srirampur, he composed and published his masterly writing Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Vaishnava Siddhanta Mala, Prema Pradipa, and Manas Shiksha. He was also publishing Sajjana Toshini magazine on a regular basis. In Calcutta, he set up the Sri Chaitanya Yantra, a printing press at the Bhakti Bhavan, upon which he printed Maladhara's Sri Krishna Vijaya, his own Amnaya Sutra, and the Chaitanya Upanishad of the Atharva Veda. Finding the Chaitanya Upanishad was a difficult task. Hardly anyone in Bengal had heard of it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur traveled to many places in Bengal looking for it. Finally, one devoted Vaishnav Pandit named Madhusudan Das sent him an old copy he'd been keeping with him at Sambalpur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a Sanskrit commentary on the book and called it Sri Chaitanya Charanamrita. Madhusudan Das Mahashay translated the verses into Bengali. This translation was called Amrita Bindu. It was a sellout when published. In Calcutta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur started the Sri Vishwa Vaishnava Sabha, dedicated to the preaching of pure bhakti as taught by Lord Chaitanya. To publicize the work of the society, Bhaktivinoda Thakur published a small booklet entitled Vishwa Vaishnava Kalpavi. Also, he published his own edition of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita with his Amrita Prabhava Bhashya commentary. And he introduced the Chaitanyabda or Chaitanya era calendar and gave assistance to the propagation of the Chaitanya Panjika, which established the feast day of Gaur Purnima, the day of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in the material world. He lectured and gave readings on Vaishnav books in various religious societies. In the Hindu Herald, an English periodical, he published a detailed account of Sri Chaitanya's life. In the year 1887, Bhaktivinoda Thakur resolved to quit government service and go to Vrindavan with Bhakti Bringa Mahashay for the rest of his life. One night in Tarakeshwar, he had a dream in which Sri Chaitanya appeared to him and spoke, "You will certainly go to Vrindavan, but first there is some service you must perform in Navadvip. When will you do that?" When the Lord disappeared, Bhaktivinoda awoke. On the advice of Bhakti Bringa Mahashay, he thereupon applied for a transfer to Krishnanagar, where the government headquarters for the Navadvip district is situated. He turned down offers of big posts in Assam and Tripura. He even tried to retire at this time, but his application was not accepted. Finally, in December of 1887, he managed to trade posts with Babu Radha Madhav Basu, Deputy Magistrate of Krishnanagar. During his stay at Krishnanagar, Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to go to Navadvip and search for the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the exact location of which had been lost in time. One night he was sitting on the roof of the Rani Dharmashala in Navadvip, chanting on his beads, when he spotted in the distance a very tall tal tree. Near the tree was a small building that gave off a remarkable effulgence. Soon afterwards, he went to the Krishnanagar collectory, where he began to study some very old manuscripts of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Navadvip Dham Parikrama by Narahari Sarkar, and some old maps of the Navadvip area. He went to the village of Ballal Dibbi and spoke with many elderly people there and uncovered facts about the modern day Navadvip. In the year 1887, he discovered that the place he had seen from the Dharmashala rooftop was in fact the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. This was confirmed by Jagannath Das Babaji, the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnav community in Navadvip. A great festival was held there. Bhaktivinoda published the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, which elaborated the glories of the birth site of Sri Chaitanya. Also in 1887, Bhaktivinoda renovated the house of Jagannath Das Babaji at Ramas Ghat. He took leave from office for 2 years and acquired a plot of land at Sri Godruma Dvip or Swarupganj. He built a retirement house there called Surabhi Kunj. In 1890, he established the Nam Hatta there. Sometimes Jagannath Das Babaji would come there and have kirtan. Lord Nityananda had established his Nam Hatta at the same place, and Bhaktivinoda considered himself the street sweeper of the Nam Hatta of Nitai. When the birthplace was uncovered, Bhaktivinoda and Jagannath Das Babaji would worship Lord Chaitanya there. This is the birthplace of Mahaprabhu, Yogpit. Once one of Bhaktivinoda's sons contracted a skin disease, and Jagannath Das Babaji told the boy to lie down at the birth site of Lord Chaitanya for the night. He did so, and the next morning he was cured. In 1888, Bhaktivinoda took charge of the village of Netrakona in the district of Mayamanasimha because he could not keep good health in Krishnanagar and had requested transfer to a more healthful region. From Netrakona, he came to Tangaila, and from there he was transferred to the district of Vardhaman. There he would hold kirtan with the devotees from a place called Amla Jora, headed by Kshetra Babu and Vipin Babu. They would sing poems like Soka Satana, written by him. He was put in charge of the Kalara subdivision in 1890 and from there would often visit such holy places as Godadrumadvip, Navadvip, Champahati, Samudragana, Chupi, Kashtasali, Idrakapura, Bagnapada, Kyari Ganga, the place of Nakula Brahmachari, and the place of Vrindavan Das Thakur at Denura. Soon Bhaktivinoda Thakur was transferred for a few days to Ranaghat, from where he came to Dinajapur again. Shailaja Prasad was born there, his youngest son. In Dinajapur, Bhaktivinoda wrote his Vidvaranjana commentary and translation of the Bhagavad Gita. It was published in 1891 with the commentary of Baladev. 1891 was the year Bhaktivinoda Thakur took leave from the government service for 2 years. He desired to preach the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. From his base at Swarupganj, he used to visit such places as Ghatala and Ramjeevan to lecture in clubs, societies and organizations. This he'd also often do in Krishnanagar. In March of 1892, he travelled and preached with a party of Vaishnavas in the Basirahata district. All the while he was writing also. He opened many centers of Krishna worship, Namhatta, in different districts of Bengal. The Namhatta became a self-sustaining success, which continued to spread even after his return to government service. Basirahata district. From Basirahata, he set out on his third trip to Vrindavan. He stopped off at Amala Jora to celebrate the Ekadasi day with Jagannath Das Babaji. In Vrindavan, he visited all the forests and places of pastimes, and he continued to give lectures and readings on Harinam in various places in Bengal when he returned to Calcutta. In February 1891, he gave a lecture on his investigation into the whereabouts of the exact birth site of Sri Chaitanya. His audience included highly learned men from all over Bengal who became very enthusiastic at the news. Out of this gathering, the Sri Navadvip Dham Pracharini Sabha was formed for spreading the glories of the Yog Peeth, the birth site. That year on Gaur Purnima, a big festival was held that witnessed the installation of Gaura Vishnupriya deities at the Yog Peeth. So these are the deities at the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. That year on Gaur Purnima, a big festival was held that witnessed the installation of Gaura Vishnu Priya deities at the Yog Peeth. All the learned Pandits, having deliberated fully on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's evidence, agreed that Yog Peeth was the true birth site of Mahaprabhu. In 1892, Bhaktivinoda Thakur published the book Vaishnava Siddhanta Mala from his headquarters in Bengal. Later, he printed its individual chapters, separate booklets for public distribution. In 1900, he published Harinam Chintamani in Bengali poetic form. In October 1894, at age 56, so all this work, he's only 56. He did so much. In October 1894, at age 56, he retired from his post as deputy magistrate. Though this move was opposed by his family and the government authorities, he stayed at Swarupganj to worship, lecture, and revise his old writings. Sometimes he went to Calcutta. There he begged door to door for funds to construct a Yog Peeth temple. In July 1896, Bhaktivinoda Thakur went to Tripura at the request of the king, who was a Vaishnava. He stayed in the capital for 4 days and preached the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. His lecture on the first day amazed all the local pundits. On the next 2 days, the royal family and general public thrilled to his talks on the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Back in Swarupganj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur printed a small booklet written in Sanskrit under the title Sri Gauranga Leela Smarana Mangala Stotram, with a commentary by Sitikanta Vachaspati, Sitikanta Vachaspati of Nadia. The introduction in English was called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts. This book found its way into the library of the Royal Asiatic Society in London, the library of McGill University in Canada, and other respectable institutions. It was reviewed in the Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society by Mr. F. W. Fraser, an erudite British scholar. In the rainy season of 1896, what is the significance of 1896? Srila Prabhupada's appearance. In the rainy season of 1896, requested by the Maharaj of Tripura, he went to Darjeeling and Karshiam. In 1897, he went to many villages such as Medinipur and Shauri to preach. Shishir Kumar Ghosh was the founder of the Amrita Bazar Patrika and the author of the Sri Amiya Nimai Charita. He had great respect for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He also took up the preaching of the holy name throughout Calcutta and in many villages in Bengal. He published the Sri Vishnupriya O Ananda Bazar Patrika under the editorship of Bhaktivinoda. In one of his letters to Bhaktivinoda, he wrote, I have not seen the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, but I consider you to be the 7th Goswami. So there's a book called The 7th Goswami. It's the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had been residing at Puri as a strict renunciate and was engaged in worship at the Gandharvika Giridhari Mutt, that is here in Mayapur. Gandharvika Giridhari Mutt, one of the 7 mutts near the Samadhi tomb of Haridas Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, desiring to help his son, had the monastery cleaned and repaired when he came to Puri himself at the beginning of the 20th century. So this is in Puri. Gandharvika Giridhari Mutt is also in Puri. After Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left Puri for Sri Navadvip Mayapur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur constructed his own place of bhajan on the beach, calling it Bhakti Kutir. Krishnadas Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's devoted assistant and disciple, joined him there at this time. He was his constant attendant up to the end of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life. He began solitary worship, bhajan, at this time. He had many visitors at Shivati's place. Some of them simply wanted to disturb him, whereas others were sincere and benefited greatly from his spiritual inspiration. In 1908, 3 months before Bhaktivinoda Thakur renounced the world, one of his sons, who was working in a Calcutta government office, came home to inform his father that Sir William Duke, Chief Secretary to the government, was in Calcutta. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had served under him as a magistrate. Bhaktivinoda Thakur made an appointment to meet him the next day at the government building. Sir William Duke greeted Bhaktivinoda Thakur on the street outside the building and personally escorted him into his office. With folded hands, he asked forgiveness for having once planned to remove Bhaktivinoda Thakur from his post of district magistrate. This was because he thought that if such qualified Indians held such important posts, the British would not last much longer in India. Formerly, Sir William Duke used to visit to Bhaktivinoda's house and would even take his meals there. Such familiarity between British nobility and the native people of India was uncommon. Now that Sir William was getting old, he wished to clear his conscience of guilty feelings from the past, and so confessed to Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he thought ill of him despite their close relationship. Bhaktivinoda Thakur answered, I considered you to be a good friend and a well-wisher all along. Pleased with Sir William, he gave him his blessings. Later, Bhaktivinoda Thakur admitted he was astonished that the Duke wanted to harm him in some way. In 1908, Bhaktivinoda Thakur took Vesha, the dress of Babaji, at Satasana in Puri. Until 1910, he would move between Calcutta and Puri and continued to write. But after that, he stopped all activity and remained in Puri, absorbed in the holy name of Krishna. He shut himself up and entered Samadhi, claiming paralysis. On June 23, 1914, just before noon at Puri, Bhaktivinoda Thakur left his body. This day was also the disappearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Amidst Sankirtan, his remains were interred in Godruma after the next solstice. The summer solstice had just begun when he had left his body. About Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sharad Charan Mitra, Calcutta High Court judge wrote, I knew Thakur Bhaktivinoda intimately as a friend and a relation. Even under the pressure of official work as a magistrate in charge of a heavy district, he could always find time for devotional contemplation and service. And whenever I met him, our talk would turn in a few moments to the subject of devotion, Dvaita Advaitavada philosophy, and the saintly work that lay before him. Service of God is the only thing he longed for, and service under the government, however honorable, was to him a clog. In executing his government service, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would wear coat and pants to court with double-sized tulsi neck beads and tilak. He would shave his head monthly. Very strong in his decisions, he would decide immediately. He did not allow any humbug in his court. No upstart could stand before him. He was always charitable to Brahmanas and equally befriended other castes. He never showed pride, and his amiable disposition was a characteristic feature of his life. He never accepted gifts from anyone. He even declined all honors and titles offered by the government to him on the grounds that they might stand against his holy mission of life. He was very strict in moral principles and avoided the luxurious life. He would not even chew betel. He never allowed harmonium and he never had any debts. He never allowed harmonium and he never had any debts. He disliked theatres because they were frequented by public women. He spoke Bengali, Sanskrit, English, Latin, Urdu, Persian, and Oriya. He started writing books at age 12 and continued turning out a profuse number of volumes up until his departure from this world. Sachidananda Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, maybe he meant honorarium, like a gratitude, people give money, right?
That, yeah, I was
that spelling was wrong, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking harmonium, why? Okay, honorarium. Okay, thank you all.
Very nice, Mataji. See, actually, I mean, this instant two thoughts came to my mind as I was listening. See, the current life is very materialistic, right? People think, we have to do this, that course, this course, keeping kids in mind, or in general, the speed of the life. But still, it's like a pinch of salt. Even those scholars have realized what's the true utmost thing. So, because sometimes when I speak to these kids or youngsters, they'll say, you're speaking something which is not at all apt for the current living. And then we have to say, no, you don't have to leave what you're doing, but still you can do this. And when I heard this today, I was like, oh my God, see how capable he was. Even those English authors' names that you mentioned in the beginning, this is all what these kids read, Mataji. And they think that we're all like, whatever, they're just saying Hare Krishna. They don't. I think there is a way how we as elders, we have to put it to the kids so that it's so much, right? Like today when I was listening, Tell me one single person. They talk about these Tesla leaders, all this, but see, our people are not less. Come on, there were even more. But the good thing is that value, like at the end, when one of the paragraph you were reading, he said knowledge is power. So those were all like told by our parents who have not even educated much, but they knew. So if we tell our kids, like, look, this person who is in our altar, he's this, and then he taught us this, then it gets stuck to the kids. Like, I mean, like, like I've seen our Maharaj and all the other Prabhujis, when they go to colleges, how they teach, they don't start right away, Agnana, our prayers and all that. But according to them, like it's an art, right? How to tell them. It's like people are ready to listen, but it's just the way how. So that's two thoughts came to my mind, Mataji. I felt I want to tell my kids today, just 2 minutes, listen to me. About this person. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing your realizations. So, shall we end here today? Because we didn't read Bhagavatam. But
it was good, Mataji, because we don't, even myself, I never knew so much about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, though I've heard about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada, because, in a lot of places it's mentioned, even in Leelamrut and other lectures. So this is how Prabhupada was told about his guru and how it was his. And then straight away we heard how Rupa Goswami and then not Jiva Goswami, I forget, the two of them, they were the
Sanatana Goswami.
Sanatana Goswami, how scholars they were appointed, and then when they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so it's a little bit context, but in between it was not that much. So today I was like, wow. That's nice. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all. So I'll see you in Chaitanya Charitamrita reading and Achit Priya Mataji.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji, for reading. We are knowing about our acharyas. It's very nice to hear. Mataji, one more thing I wanted to ask. Like on weekends, we have started Bhagavatam, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Saturday, Sunday also we are doing. So during class only I asked.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, other things to attend and so this one. Are majority, but are the majority able to join? Because we lose the connection, Mataji.
They agreed. They agreed in the class. I asked. They all put their thumbs up. So, and then the thing is, there's recordings also, so you can watch the recordings in case you miss some days. Then you can watch the recordings to catch up.
On weekends it's difficult, Mataji. That's what. Because it was nicely going, right? Because after Friday, Monday.
Yeah, because in between for 2 days, we are losing connection. Like we have to get back, and also 2 days are just getting wasted without any Krishna Katha. So therefore, I just got this idea, and I asked in class, and I was thinking maybe everyone will say no, we don't want, but everybody was enthusiastic, and one or two devotees said we may not be able to join, but we'll watch the recordings like that. So we went ahead and started.
Because it is very, it's not that we are not enthusiastic. We don't want to miss the continuation, that's something. Thank you. Because we're reading other books on weekends, right, Mataji? That's
No. That was a while ago. Then for several months, nothing was happening on weekends. Saturday, Sunday, no readings. Just that's right.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.